Bonjour, merci à toutes et à tous de nous rejoindre aujourd'hui en direct sur OBS pour notre point de presse quotidien. Nous sommes le mardi 26 mai. Nous avons comme toujours une série d'annonces à vous faire. First, let me start with some good news for the coronavirus global response, the global action for universal access to affordable coronavirus vaccination, treatment and testing. At this point, the Commission has registered 9.5 billion euros in pledges, up from 7.4 billion euros reached during the 4 May pledging event, and beyond the initial target of 7.5 billion. This includes new pledges made by Morocco, New Zealand, and the European Investment Bank since the 4th of May. This is an important milestone, but only a start in raising the considerable resources that will be needed to accelerate the development of new solutions and to ensure universal access to them. President von der Leyen will announce the next steps in the coronavirus global response on Thursday afternoon in a press statement with external partners. We will also unveil then the full breakdown of the pledges made so far, so stay tuned. Puis un point sur les événements presse de la journée. À 16h30, nous aurons un briefing technique off the record sur la proposition de la Commission liée au cadre financier pluriannuel et à l'instrument pour la relance. Il sera sous embargo jusqu'au début du discours de la présidente demain lors de la plénière du Parlement européen. Puis à 18h, nous aurons la conférence de presse par le haut représentant vice-président M. Josep Borrell, la ministre espagnole des Affaires étrangères Mme Arantxa González Laya, le haut-commissaire des Nations Unies pour les réfugiés Filippo Grandi et le directeur général de l'Organisation internationale pour les migrations Antonio Vitorino, suite à la conférence internationale de donateurs en solidarité avec les réfugiés et migrants vénézuéliens dans les pays de la région, dans le contexte de la pandémie de coronavirus. Je passe maintenant la parole à Sonia pour une annonce sur les efforts de solidarité montrés par l'industrie durant la crise. Sonia.
Good afternoon. European companies have quickly responded to the coronavirus crisis and shown extraordinary solidarity in facing the crisis and also protecting the health of European citizens. Many companies across Europe retooled and ramped up their production in order to respond to the demand for personal protective equipment and medical devices. From distilleries to textile companies, the industry has put its know-how to the service of citizens to produce, for example, face masks, protective gowns, hand sanitizers, and ventilators. Over the past months, the Commission has taken action to facilitate and create the right conditions for companies to retool and ramp up their production by, for example, asking European standardization bodies to make freely available standards for personal protective equipment and certain medical devices so companies can retool their production. Also, the Commission has issued a set of guidelines to facilitate the retooling process for those companies. Today, the Commission has published an interactive tool and a fact sheet with success stories of those EU companies who are putting their effort to protect the health of our citizens. For more details and information, please consult our daily news.
Thank you very much, Sonia. I now pass the floor to Marta for an announcement on strategic investments in Spain.
The European Investment Bank is providing 200 million.
Start again because your microphone is not on.
Thank you. So the European Investment Bank is providing 200 million euros in investing to Spanish company Gestamp to invest in its research and development program. The financing is guaranteed by the European Fund for Strategic Investment, also known as EFSI. Gestamp, which employs some 43,000 people, will use the funds to develop safer, lighter vehicles with low emissions. Their R&D activities will take place in their plants in Spain, Germany, France, and Sweden. And as a reminder of the latest figures, as of April this year, the investment plan for Europe has mobilized 478 billion of investments across the EU, including 55 billion in Spain. It has supported more than 1 million startups and small and medium businesses. Thank you.
Merci Martha. Enfin, je termine avec la vidéoconférence du jour. Les ministres des Affaires européennes se réunissent aujourd'hui pour discuter de la coordination de la levée des mesures de confinement et échanger leurs points de vue avant la présentation de la proposition de la Commission que j'ai mentionnée juste avant. Le vice-président, M. Šefčovič, y représentera la Commission et participera à la conférence de presse à 14 h. Voilà, cela conclut nos annonces pour aujourd'hui. Nous allons donc passer à vos questions et je voudrais passer la parole à Ansgar Hase. Ansgar, you have muted your mic. You need to unmute and to press speak. Okay, whilst you are trying to do that, perhaps we will go to Athanasios. Ah, no, hold on. No, yeah, I think you're still muted. So, Athanasios, go ahead. Press speak, as usual. You know the drill.
By now, yeah. Bonjour. What happened yesterday? It seems that the recovery plan has been leaked or communicated. So are the recovery numbers communicated by the Commission's representative in Austria accurate? If they are, was that the best way to know about the final amounts that normally everybody else should wait for till tomorrow? And how did that happen? That's a very bizarre briefing that happened yesterday in Austria. Thanks.
Athanasios, you know very well that the Commission would not communicate figures on such an important proposal through any other means than the President in her press conference tomorrow. So there was no announcement made by the Commission yesterday of the numbers that the College will be deciding upon tomorrow. I have said time and time again in this very press room that we would not be giving figures until tomorrow, and that remains the case.
Follow-up.
Sure.
But someone did. Someone who represents you in a member state did exactly that. Gave numbers, and those numbers were published in a press agency, and they are now public. So what's going to happen to him? What's going to happen to the numbers? What happened yesterday? How did that whole situation actually evolve? That's very, it's not to our benefit. That's what I want to say.
Well, I think that you need to trust the spokesman. When the spokesman tells you that the numbers are going to be given on the day of the decision in College, I would advise very seriously that you take him seriously. I have said time and time again that the numbers would be given tomorrow here by the President of the Commission. If a news agency has published other numbers, it is definitely not something that I can vouch for. And I always urge you to come and check these sets of information with me. Some did, some did not. We have no comment to make except to say, once again, that the numbers will come out tomorrow. Okay. Are there other questions on this, even though I will obviously not be commenting further? David.
Oui, merci Eric. Je voulais juste savoir si cette pratique qui a été, je ne sais pas si inaugurée ou si c'est une pratique courante du représentant de la Commission en Autriche est approuvée par la présidente.
Franchement, la présidente est entièrement concentrée sur la préparation des débats du collège demain. Cette proposition, qui est une proposition cruciale pour l'avenir de l'Europe, qui est une proposition d'une complexité extrême, tant d'un point de vue politique que juridique, que technique, que financière, demande qu'elle et ses équipes se concentrent sur la finalisation de l'ensemble des propositions. Et c'est là-dessus qu'elle a travaillé et qu'elle continue de travailler, ainsi que l'ensemble de son équipe.
Si je peux avoir un follow-up, juste pour te demander s'il a la pleine confiance, si elle a une pleine confiance dans le représentant de la Commission en Autriche.
La présidente de la Commission n'a absolument pas commenté ni jugé ce qui s'est dit hier en Autriche. Encore une fois, comme je te le dis, la seule chose qui lui importe pour le moment, c'est de préparer correctement la prise de décision par le collège demain. Voilà, je pense que ce chapitre est clos. En tout cas, je ne vois pas d'autres mains levées pour ce sujet, donc nous pouvons passer à d'autres questions. Odile, après l'odyssée d'hier où tu n'arrivais pas à te connecter, voyons si on y arrive mieux aujourd'hui. Tu joues de malchance, on dirait qu'il y a un problème de micro, de nouveau, et bien que ta caméra soit visiblement branchée, nous ne te voyons pas. Donc nous allons passer à Mathieu. Mathieu, il faut appuyer sur le bouton Speak.
Oui, exact. Pardonnez-moi, je voulais poser une question sur le fonds pan-européen de garantie de la BEI. Apparemment, il y a un accord que le président de l'Eurogroupe hier à Centeno a mentionné. Je voulais savoir si vous pouvez donner des détails sur de quoi il retourne.
Je pense que c'est pour Martha. Martha, on va voir si Martha peut te donner les précisions. Sinon, nous reviendrons vers toi.
Oui, bonjour Mathieu. Donc effectivement, il s'agit d'un des trois piliers du plan qui a été approuvé par l'Eurogroupe récemment et soutenu par les dirigeants européens au niveau du sommet. Mais je pense que le mieux, c'est que tu t'adresses directement à la BEI, comme effectivement c'est un programme qui est mis en place dans cette institution. Donc le mieux, c'est d'avoir un contact direct avec la BEI.
Merci Martha. Y a-t-il peut-être d'autres questions pour Martha? Je n'en vois pas, donc je passe la parole à Mose. Mose, you know the drill. Press speak.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Yes, I would like to come back to a previous question 2 weeks ago, and that is about the plans inside the European Commission on the gradual return to, say, normal work, if that's possible, at the offices. I suppose it was said then that it could start as from yesterday, the 25th of May. So I wonder to what extent that has happened. I mean, how many of the so-called non-critical staff has returned and how is it working? And also, if the Commission has evaluated the effectiveness of teleworking, and what do you think, whether will it become some kind of more frequent type of work in the future? Thank you.
Okay, I give the floor to Balázs.
Hi, Mose. Good afternoon. Well, let me tell you that all necessary conditions have been met in order to launch phase 1. So as of Monday, the 25th of May, the Commission has indeed launched a gradual return to the office in all of its sites. I can add maybe that for the vast majority of the staff, teleworking will remain the norm. But for a limited number of staff, it will be possible to come to the office on a voluntary basis, working in weekly shifts. Staff who cannot perform their work from home will come to the office, as will critical staff. Even if almost 25% of staff signaled their interest to return to the office in the latest staff survey, safety must come first, of course, and that is why we take a prudent approach, allowing a maximum of 10% of staff present in a DG per week. Now, just to finish, units and services will be split into teams, working in weekly shifts. Critical staff who need to come to the office and staff coming to the office on a voluntary basis can alternate between working in the office and teleworking under the condition that adequate safety, hygienic and social distancing measures are in place and applied, not only by the institutions but also by the staff.
Thank you, Balázs. We are torn in two between the wish to see our colleagues in the office, feel the atmosphere, and the fact that, first of all, it's working quite well. You were asking whether we have an analysis. I don't think that there is a formal analysis, but I think that the Commission has continued to operate extremely effectively throughout the lockdown right until now, and I'm sure it will continue to do so. As a head of the SPP, I think that we can all agree that we have been able to continue working and to provide you with the service that you need, and I'm sure that the same applies to our colleagues in other Commission services. Thank you, Balázs. I now turn to Lily. Press the speak button. Your mic does not seem to be on the right source, I am told. So upper left-hand corner of your screen, you should be able to select the appropriate source. Correct, Jonathan? Voila. When I leave here, I will create an
Can you hear me now?
consultancy. Yes, Lily.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think my screen froze. I have a question about the timeline for the way the budget proposal will be unveiled. Will all the legislative proposals also be published tomorrow at the same time as the broader MFF and recovery plan, or will this be a gradual process? And if so, could you let us know which legislative proposals will come at what time and which day? Thank you.
Thank you, Lily, for your question. Unfortunately, I cannot answer that because the HEBDO meeting, exceptionally in view of the size and complexity of the package, was split in two sessions between yesterday and this afternoon. So it is only after the HEBDO session today that those details will be fixed. Therefore, you'll have to bear with us a little bit longer until those decisions have been finalized. Ansgar, we are going to try again. Yes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you and see you, Ansgar. Hi.
Perfect. I think I have a question to Ariana. German politicians accuse the EU Commission of imposing unjustified conditions for the approval of the Lufthansa rescue package, especially when it comes to the release of takeoff and landing slots at Frankfurt and Munich airport. What is your answer to that? And can you please tell us approximately how long it will take the Commission to review the rescue package? Thank you.
Ariana. Ariana, you need to press speak as well.
Do you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Oh, great. And today you also see me, I hope.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
We're improving. Great. So So I imagine that you are referring, Asghar, to Lufthansa. So as I already had the occasion to say, I have no comment on the specific case. No notification has been made to the Commission, and no decision has been taken on it, of course. We are in constant contact with member states, and in general, as you know, we are aware of the difficult situation due to the coronavirus sector, also for the entire aviation sector. And stated rules do allow to support aviation sector while ensuring that competition and consumers are not disadvantaged. Concerning your specific request on commitments, I would like to make a general comment and not with particular relevance reference to a case. So indeed, the Commission's state aid temporary framework, and in particular point 72 of the temporary framework, the amendment that was approved on 8th of May,
Ansgar, I think you inadvertently took the floor again. Ariana, you're back.
I'm back? Okay,
Yes.
great. So I was saying in general terms, and not with reference to a specific case, that indeed a temporary framework, and in particular point 72, which was introduced with the amendment of the 8th of May following a consultation with member states, requires that member states make additional commitments to preserve effective competition in markets in case of large recapitalizations of more than 250 million euros to a company. This is important to preserve the level playing field in a single market post-coronavirus crisis to the benefit of all consumers and companies in the European Union. Furthermore, I would like to underline that there is a substantive difference in nature between public loans that have to be repaid and a company's recapitalization, where the state assumes a much higher risk. Therefore, this explains the difference in conditionality between the two. At this stage, the Commission has not approved any recapitalization measure specifically for airlines. And so far, the Commission has approved only one recapitalization measure, this morning actually, namely a Lithuanian fund to enable up to 1 billion euros of liquidity and capital support to medium-sized and large enterprises affected by the coronavirus outbreak. Last element that I would like to add is that we apply clearly stated rules equally to measures notified by all member states. Looking at the aviation sector in particular, the aid approved so far to Air France, SAS, of course from Sweden and Denmark, and Condor from Germany, concerned loans and guarantees that were in line with the temporary framework or with Article 107(2)(b of the treaty, which provides for aid for exceptional occurrences such as the coronavirus crisis.
Thank you, Ariana. Are there other competition-related questions for Ariana? Tommaso. I suppose it's competition.
Yeah, good morning. It's always a question of competition. It's on an Italian issue. Banca Popolare di Bari is going to approve tomorrow the board is going to approve the recapitalization plan. It is said that the interbanking fund, FITD, might have a bigger role, 1.2 billion. I just wonder if the Commission is following these developments, and also if you can update us on the appeal that you made to the EU court regarding to the Tercas case, which is involved in this story. Thank you so much.
Ariana.
So I think my microphone is super high. I apologize. I try to keep it away from me. So on Popolare di Bari, we have no specific comment on your question and on press reports. We are in constructive contacts with the Italian authorities on the availability of tools within the EU law framework for the envisaged intervention on Banca Popolare di Bari. concerning your request on Tercas, as you know, in its 2019 judgment, the General Court annulled the Commission's 2015 decision concerning Banca Tercas, as it found that the Commission had failed to establish that the intervention by the mandatory scheme of the FITD in the bank was imputable to the Italian authorities and that it involved state resources. Indeed, the Commission has appealed against this judgment to seek clarification on the legal test applied by the General Court of the European Union, and these proceedings are currently ongoing.
Thank you, Ariana. I see that Hans-Uwe has raised his hand. I suppose it's on competition. Hans-Uwe?
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. My question is concerning the envisaged merger between Chantier de l'Atlantique in France and Fincantieri, Italy. Is there any news? The decision was expected earlier in April. It was postponed to May. Is there any moves? What is the hiccup? Thank you.
Ariana. Ariana, can you press speak again? We seem to have a connection problem. Ah, there you go.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes,
okay,
go ahead.
I will have to ask you to bear with me 1 minute because I want to give you the precise date and I don't have it with me. Otherwise, I will be happy to get back to you with the precise status. What I can say, I prefer getting back to you because I wouldn't want to say a wrong date for the decision.
Okay, Hans-Uwe, we'll come back to you on this, but it's not because the decision hasn't yet taken place that there is a hiccup. That's not related.
If I can add perhaps as
yes.
background, well, not as background, as additional information, on the 13th March, the Commission has stopped the clock in its in-depth investigation in the acquisition of Fincantieri. This procedure is normally activated in mergers when the parties fail to provide information in a timely fashion after a request from the Commission, and normally this will lead the Commission to stop the clock. Once the missing information is supplied, the clock is restarted and the deadline is adjusted accordingly. Of course, this is a particular moment in time, and the Commission fully understands that the companies are facing difficulties in the context of the coronavirus to provide the requested information, and we continue to encourage parties to discuss the timing of notifications and transactions with the relevant teams in DG Comp.
Thank you for those further details. Are there other questions for us today? I do not see any other hand raised. Yes, Odile, très persévérante. Allons-y.
I'm going to try again.
Yes.
Well, I read the statement by EEAS this weekend about Hong Kong. Of course, it's a very sensitive topic. But I don't know if you heard about that, the protest leader, that young Joshua Wong, and he and the people who are conducting all those unfortunately violent demonstrations, they would like the EU to impose sanctions on Chinese politicians, because they don't agree with that new national security law that the Chinese want to impose upon the former British colony in Hong Kong, according to the one country, two two systems. And so I don't know if you you can add anything to that.
Virginie.
Hello, Odile. Thank you for your question. In fact, no, I don't have a lot of things to add. Of course, as we said in the declaration by the High Representative on behalf of the 27 member states that was published on Friday, well, we are following very closely the developments. And by that, we mean that we are indeed looking at all the steps that are being taken in this context, as well as what is happening on the ground in Hong Kong. In regards to what has been done, again, I mentioned this declaration. Our head of delegation in Beijing has also conducted a démarche to explain the declaration to the authorities. And once again, we are looking very closely at the elements. I also understand that President Michel has also expressed himself in this regard at a press conference following the VTC of the leaders meeting with Japan, and was said that it was we had been very clear about EU, and we are not naive about China's steps on the international level. So once again, stay tuned. One thing that I may add, however, is that, as you may know, there will be a VTC of the Foreign Affairs Ministers on Friday, and ministers are expected to discuss China and related developments, so I expect that this will come up. As usual, after this VTC, there will be a press conference where I hope we will be able to tell you more on the EU position on the matter.
Merci beaucoup, Virginie. Y a-t-il d'autres questions? Odile, tu as un follow-up. Nous n'arrivons plus à te voir. Let me turn to James. James, is this a question for Virginie on external relations or for Peter? No, it seems you've unraised your hand. Your mic? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead. It's a follow-up to Odile's question. I was interested to see Vice President Borrell's statement, which he put out on Friday, which said basically that it's a watching and monitoring brief for the Commission at the moment. The National People's Congress of the Chinese Communist Party of the People's Republic of China has said that they will rubber stamp this draft law on Thursday. And I believe it's important for our politicians to know, or the general public to know, whether or not the Commission will consider sanctions. This has been requested by the ECR group in the European Parliament, who put out a press release last week. So my question is the possibility of imposing sanctions on China in your tool bag that the foreign ministers will be discussing on Friday? Or are we going to see another rollover?
Okay, so you referred to the declaration, so let me take this opportunity to reaffirm what was in it, since you qualify it, and I don't really, I believe that what we meant and what we said in the declaration was very clear. We have, as the European Union, a strong stake in the continued stability and prosperity of Hong Kong under the one country, two systems principle. We attach great importance to the preservation of Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy in line with the basic law and with international commitments, as well as to the respect for this principle. We consider that the democratic debate consultation of key stakeholders and respect for protected rights and freedom in Hong Kong would represent the best way of proceeding with the adoption of national security legislation as foreseen in Article 23 of the Basic Law, which also upholding Hong Kong's autonomy and the one country, two system principle. You mentioned the timeline with a step that is expected for Thursday. I referred to the discussion of the foreign ministers that will take place the next day. And again, I think it's fair to expect that this will be discussed, even more so that a discussion on our relations with China was already foreseen. As to the specific of sanctions, in this case, as in all other cases, we do not enter into this discussion prior. We do not get into whether this is being discussed. These sanctions are part of, generally speaking, the CFSP toolbox, as we call it, the different instruments that the EU can use for its foreign policy, but I'm not going to enter into any speculations. It's only a few days away to Friday. Let's see, first of all, what happened on Thursday, and then what comes out of the discussion on Friday.
Thank you, Virginie. I only see one hand raised, and it is James.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. Of course, I read Mr. Borrell's statement, but it's quite obvious that there has been no consultation whatsoever. This is a draft law from the People's Republic of China. There was no consultation with the people of Hong Kong at all. And when there were demonstrations on Sunday, many students, by the way, and teenagers, the excuse of having to stop the COVID-19 pandemic was used to disperse the demonstrators. Hello?
Question, James.
Can you hear?
We can hear you, but we're waiting for your question.
Well, my question is, are you therefore not ruling out the possibility of imposing sanctions?
I believe Virginie has answered that question, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think indeed I did. Let me just once again stress that we are strongly committed to Hong Kong, and we continue to support the one country, two system principle, that we attach great importance to democratic debate and consultation of key stakeholders. That is very clear in the declaration, that as always in Hong Kong and everywhere in the world, we attach a very high importance for respect for protected rights and freedoms, and human rights in general. That includes, of course, freedom to protest peacefully. As again, if I have to say it again, no problem on sanctions. We do not enter any discussion prior to possible of adoption. I'm not, confirming or denying anything. This is a policy when it comes to sanctions. This belongs to the member states. This belongs to discussion in the council, and public communication can only come after that.
Thank you, Virginie. Are there other questions for Virginie? Tommaso, is your question on foreign affairs? Press speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's not on foreign affairs.
Okay,
it's
then,
on vouchers and reimbursements.
Okay, then we will come to you afterwards once we're finished this chapter. Naomi, question on foreign affairs? Press speak.
No, it's not on foreign affairs.
Okay, we need to be disciplined here, dear colleagues, if we want to move ahead quickly. So I would ask you only to raise your hands when we're on a specific chapter related to that chapter. So it seems, Virginie, that we have finished that chapter. So we go back to Tommaso and the issue of vouchers. Tommaso.
Yes. Hi, Eric. So around 2 weeks ago, the Commission sent letters to all the EU countries to remind them the scope of Regulation 261 of 2004 on the reimbursements for flights, which have been cancelled. And in this context, if I'm not wrong, the Commission also sends letters to 13 countries that are not respecting the rules, providing them 2 weeks to reply. So my question is, did the Commission already receive any reply to these letters? And if yes, from which countries? And of course, if you can share more with us, it would be great. Thank you.
I pass the floor to Stefan.
Hello, Tommaso. Thank you. Indeed, 2 weeks ago, the Commission has sent letters to all member states about in order to ensure a good application of the use of vouchers in the context of passenger rights regulations and travel packages. Member states were given indeed 2 weeks to reply. The deadline is the 28th of May. We expect to receive, obviously, replies from member states, and then we will see which steps have to be taken. I cannot, however, go into the details of the different issues which have been raised in the letters. Suffice to say, as I also said, I think a week ago, that there were several member states for which we believed there were compliance issues, or for which we believe there could be compliance issues, and we're looking forward, obviously, to the replies that we will receive from the member states to then decide which are the next steps to take.
Thank you. I see no other question on this issue, so I come back to Naomi. Thanks. Naomi.
Hi. So my question regards the movement guidelines between member states. I know the Commission has released guidelines in terms of how to make a decision about opening borders, and I'm wondering if the member states are reporting their decisions to the Commission in terms of who their borders are open to and what are the criteria on travellers, and if so, whether this database of information in terms of the status of free travel in Europe is available to the public.
Okay, let me pass the floor to Christian, who's filling in for Adalbert this week. Christian.
Yes, hello.
Go ahead.
Well, as I have, I think, also mentioned yesterday, there is a weekly meeting on borders on expert level. Another of these meetings will take place today, actually, this afternoon. So in this context, of course, information is being exchanged on the border management and travel restrictions and the different regulations that are in place in the member states. Also on the political level, there are weekly video conferences of the Home Affairs ministers of member states and Schengen associated countries with Commissioner Johansson in close coordination with the Croatian presidency every week. And the next video conference at the political level will be held later this week. So there is clearly coordination ongoing, information exchanged. As for public available information, we have a website which gives information about this. However, it's also always advisable, as I think Adalbert explained last week, to check directly with member states, as these things can sometimes quickly evolve.
Thank you, Christian. I see no further question for us today. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. There will not be a midday briefing. There will be the press conference by the President after her return from the European Parliament. The exact timing will obviously depend on when she comes back from the plenary session. So see you tomorrow.